Okay, now to summarize this one, it's easier to remember it by looking at the women who had some self-esteem, psychological problems, where they were depressed because they felt some sort of lack in themselves. One lost both parents and felt some unresolved issues from that. The other had lost a sister to suicide and unresolved issues there. And really both went through different programs that permitted them to reframe how they looked at things, to look at things differently, to change their beliefs, so to speak. And that's basically what they did. And as a result of their being able to do that, they looked at life differently. And so both women felt as if they succeeded. The woman in Arizona, Tucson, where I'm going, she went to Miraval, and she'd been to 3 other places before that. So this one, for whatever the reason, clicked. The other woman with her family became a volunteer, and it worked for her. So, you know, different strokes for different folks. But basically for those two, they had similar experiences, just different programs that brought it out for them. Okay, then so those were the psychological ones. The other one that I think of next is the guy from Branson, Missouri, who lost his family because being drunk, you know, can cause problems. He lost his family, divorce, and so he thought that he had more than a drinking problem. He was drinking, he thought, he needed some help. So the help that he sought was spiritual help. He went to the Promise Keepers, went with his family to church. And so what was the end result? The end result was, I think we're going to get married again. Hey, he pays attention to the daughter now. He wasn't doing that before. He was actually involved with her. So things improved there. He felt a lack spiritually, apparently, and in taking that on, the alcohol problem was dealt with also. So, you know, if you go through AA, you do that sort of thing too. You have to admit that there's a higher power than yourself, and you're not going to get through this without the help of somebody to mentor you and a higher power. You're not going to get through it. So, and that's probably the most, well, that was the first 12-step program ever, I guess, and others have been developed to do the same sort of thing. So, you know, it didn't say he went through a 12-step program, but he did that kind of thing. He went with the higher power deal. Now, the other one was an architect living out in California who was depressed because he was getting older, and so he was taking Prozac. He was lacking in energy. He was cranky with everybody. He said, I'm the kind of business guy, I'd cut your throat in a minute. You know, that kind of business guy. And so at age 50, he was just depressed about all these things. I know what I'll do. I'll take drugs. I'll do exercise. And I'll change my diet. And he did all that 6 days a week with a personal trainer. Human growth hormone every day, and because of the human growth hormone, the blood tests once a month, something like that. And let's see, a very Spartan kind of high-tech diet. And so he lost the weight, gained in energy, and instead of retiring and taking more Prozac, he got off that and started to expand the business, and all of a sudden he was likable, and he was a husband again. So, that's what he did. And that's a common thing for men or women as we age. We start to lose some things. For example, on Sunday, I was watching these people arm wrestle, and I used to be really good at that. Nobody could beat me because I have a really long arm, and so to get the leverage on me is really hard. It doesn't matter if you have big muscles. So let's try this. I'm going to be 66 this month. Let's see if I can take on this 20-year-old guy. So we sit down there, and I turn purple, and I start shaking. I held him for a long time, but he got me. So now I'm going to look up on YouTube this little trick that you can do to get the leverage where you're going to get me next time. So, that's common because as we age, we lose some of the things that we have valued. And so that's what he did. And he tried to regain it. But I thought I did really well because I was right there, like forever. And I was determined but he smacked me down. He beat me, and I beat I beat his little brother. Okay, so that was the physical thing. And then let's see, physical, spiritual, psychological. Well, the last one was time. The stuff was owning the people instead of the people owning the stuff. And so the woman, they got rid of their house, got rid of their big car, all the stuff that was costing them money, only owed money on the house. And so what do they get in return for it? Just like that guy who lives by the creek on somebody else's land in a hammock, he has time. Because labor and all those other things are not stealing the time from you. And so only one is working instead of both parents working. And so now they can be together a lot more. And those things are worth doing, if you find yourself just up to here with things. So theirs was a gaining of a quality of life by redeeming the time, so to speak. And they were able to redeem the time because if you think about it, things that you have to pay for, if you borrow money, that's on time. If you work, that takes your time. So there are all kinds of things that can steal your time from you. There were others at the beginning. This whole self-help movement is something that began in the United States. And so it involves the sale of DVDs, the downloading of some little ebook manual, or even the downloading of a book from Kindle, or you call a 1-800 number and they'll send those vitamins right away, or like me, I don't know why I want to be a criminal. I'm really not sure. But I found this deal, for $19. This is what's called a tactical pen. It's made of a very heavy kind of material. You can see that it's heavier than most pens, and it's very, very well. You can see it's a point, so right in the eye, or whatever. I mean that's the reason, and so you can go on an airplane with it. And since I was in the military, I guess I became paranoid or something like that. I'm not exactly sure, but I got this for $19. Latest crazy thing I ordered. All you have to pay for is the shipping. A lockpick set. So I ordered it. I think it was like $2.95 to ship it. So I get this set of lockpicks and a DVD on how to do it. So if I ever really want to be a criminal and need money or need your stuff, I am going to know how to get in your house and steal your car. I haven't taken those pics out of the package yet, but this weekend, I'm going for it. I'm going to practice on my own house. No keys allowed. And the only way I can eat supper is to get in with you got to hold your tongue in just the right way. So there are all these little things that we can get, right? Aren't there? And so stuff, just if it's going to be a house or a car or 2 ice cream shops, that tends to, we can go overboard with that, right? Everybody agree with that we can do that to the detriment of relationships with people, with our family, with boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, whatever. Okay, now if you go back to the beginning of it, they were talking about all these gurus, and that's where you get the lock picks and the tactical pen, and how to be smarter, how to be taller, how to be shorter, how to be better memory, how to be whatever it is, you can do it. How to get your degree in just by sending us $20, and we'll send you a diploma. Whatever it is, all that kind of stuff is out there. And some of the stuff is, really quite legitimate stuff that you can do or buy to improve yourself. But all that began in the United States, what's called the self-help movement. And as I've told you all before, I've spent 2 years working on my house, just a little bit here and there. I've put down a floor, I've put on a roof, I've done some plumbing, I've done some electrical work. And it's really fun to learn new stuff and to do those things because I'd never done those things before. I'd rebuilt a car engine. No, it was a truck engine. Didn't work the first time, so I had to do it again. But I've done those things, and there's value in doing all of those things. Why do we do almost anything? It's because I'll be happier if, right? Isn't that why we do it? Pretty much. Okay, so that basically deals with that one, except for that one guy. His name was, his last name was Schwartz. But anyway, he was the guy who wrote the book, Travel Around, What Makes Happiness? And, of course, he found out what you saw in the whole show. It's different things for different people. And as my wife said when she saw that guy who lives in a hammock, she texted, I said, well, what do you think of this? And I sent it to some other people. And she reacted, chacun son goût, to each his own in French. She's taught French before. So she was saying, that's not for me. And I was thinking, that's not for me either. Not for me, not for me. Okay, so that takes care of that one. Now there's the first one. Let's rewind and go all the way back to the first one. That one deals solely with the subject of time. And, this last one that I talked about, the very last part of it dealt with time also, correct? Yeah. Okay. The way that, first of all, they talk about how human beings are with regard to time. And so time is slow or fast as things move, right? Okay? I don't care whether it's a car or the speed of light or whatever in the world it is, or how long it takes you to get out of bed in the morning. So he talks about how human beings are with regard to time, how they relate to it and how they work. There are 2 kinds of cells they talk about. They talk about listening cells and what are the other cells? Do you all remember? Listening cells and counting cells. Those are the 2. And those cells in our body get wired by how often we do something. If you've boiled an egg and you don't use your watch to follow it, or, you're frying an egg. And so you use cues of what it looks like and how long, and all that's working in your head, and time now. You just know those things. And that is what gauges us with this stupid thing. I got to reboot it. Because why are you doing that? Well, because it's operating too slow. If you have a Mac and you see that little, anybody in here have Mac equipment besides me? Okay, and you watch that little rainbow spin, that's when you get torqued. Now, what happens on a PC where does something spin? It's been so long since
Years ago, it used to be the hourglass. Now it's a blue ring.
Okay, a blue ring. And so when that thing just keeps going, you know, that because, and it's not just the visual thing that you're getting. You know that when look, I pushed this and it's still not. It hadn't opened. Okay, well, you've had the experience of over and over and over again how long it takes when it operates right. And when it slows down, you don't like it. And so it is with a phone. That was one of the primary illustrators that they used there. The old dial phone, the push button phone, and, you know, the speak into it phone. You know, Siri on this thing, you can text while you're driving, just so long as you aren't looking at it, because, you know, you can just talk and it turns it into text. Send. Off it goes. Now, you shouldn't be doing that a whole lot. That's really stupid. But I'm saying it is humanly possible to do it with almost no distraction at all, compared to a person who's doing that and kind of peeking over the wheel and trying to survive. Okay, so they use the phones. Now, is there anybody in here that has a grandmother or somebody who has one of those?
My aunt in Illinois did before she passed away.
Okay, and so it's a grandmother?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, so here's what would happen when you go to grandmother's house. You wouldn't even think about picking up that phone likely to use it. You'd have your little purple deal there with you. And so the reason you would do that rather than go, is her phone on the wall or is it on a?
It's on like a stand.
A stand, okay, all right. Well, you're somewhere else in the house, and wherever you are in the house, that's with you, right? So you're going to use it, 99%. But have you ever used her phone?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, is it kind of annoying to you or not?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, all right. Yeah, just like you saw on the magazine show there with Robert Krulwich. Okay, so he shows that bit about phones to sort of illustrate some things. Answer the phone, and, you know, after 2 or 3 rings, hang up, right? Because you know that if they don't answer before that, you're going to go to what? The voicemail, and you don't want to mess with that. Because if you do hit it, you'll hit click. See, I told you I do those wedding ceremonies, and the guy who sets it up, he's been doing this for 12 years, and he makes somewhere in the neighborhood of $60,000 a year doing weddings like it. And he is so, well, it really works for him. But I said, Rob, good grief, why do you call and leave messages on their phone? And they're just, some people don't even look at the messages. I'm talking about voicemail messages. But if they see a text and they've got the phone on them, you know, they feel a little buzz or hear a little chirp or something, they'll look at it. And within 5 minutes, you'll have an answer. Well, I don't know, I just prefer to use it. I said, Rob, try it for a week. Just try it. It'll get more efficient. Because what has happened is all those other people in the world have adapted to that speed, and you haven't yet because you're 69 years old. And I'm only 3 years behind you, Rob, but I've adapted to it, and no problem.
I have a friend that's like that. He had a flip phone up until about 2 months ago. Never text, never sent a message, nothing. He had to upgrade because his phone was just like, it just wasn't working. Got a smartphone, and now when he texts, I just start laughing.
Well, here's what you can tell about the flip phones. You see a flip, you don't look at them or anything, you see a flip phone come out, and it's about a 70-year-old man who carries it on his side, right, you know, in a little holster. And he pulls it out, flips it open, and all he can do, this is the way my stepfather did. He had one of those stupid things, and the moment he finished he would never answer it because he couldn't hear it. And he never had it on, except when he wanted to make a call. So he makes a call, you talk to him, you say bye, and then you think of something else and call him back, and you can't, because he turned it off to save the battery.
It was funny, we were, my church group doing a fundraiser at A&M Seafood in Lexington's restaurant. Anyways, out by the golf course, none of us had cell phone service. I mean, there was no service there because you're like in the bottom there. Well, all of a sudden the phone rings at a booth across from where we were standing at, and it was this man, he's probably in his mid-50s, I wouldn't say he was any older than that. Anyways, and he's like, how did he get cell phone service? And all of a sudden we realized it's a flip phone.
See, and the funny thing about it is, those used to be the thing. I mean, seriously, I had a Razor phone, a Motorola Razor. And I thought I was uptown. Green screen, black letters. Oh, so cool.
10 years ago, that was a status symbol.
Oh, you're not kidding. And I thought I was. Really? Notice that flip. Oh, wow. I am so cool.
And he had the little screen on the outside when he was closed, so you could see.
Yeah. Boy, I didn't realize that would make everybody pop up. But see, you're all too young to remember bag phones.
No, my mom
I'm
had
Yeah.
one.
not.
My mom
I had a
had
bad
one.
phone when I worked in home health.
Yeah, I had a bag
My
phone.
mom had one in her van.
And I thought, this is so good. I can take my phone and walk around with a suitcase phone. And before that, it was a big brick. And that was Motorola too.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, everything went digital. Why do we need that? This works great. And then they did that with TV too, and then radio, go digital. All zeros and ones somehow or other, and we can understand that. Okay, so they did that with the phones, and then they had the orange juice illustration. You remember that? So what was the slowest orange juice?
Making the orange juice.
Yes. Okay, and then what was the next the one that was just faster than that? It was the frozen, plop it in. Yeah, because, and the reason that takes a little longer, I mean, it's a big glob of frozen stuff, so, you got to stir it around and so on. Okay, and then what's next? Yeah, the carton that you had to open somehow, and then next? The twist top with the tin foil, and then the twist top with a pull, and then what's the last one? Stab and suck, right? The juice box, little kids. I'm at my juice box, Mommy. Okay, so that they illustrated it with orange juice, and what happened in almost all of the instances? Every time it got faster, it sold better than the next one on down. So I'm getting a Ferrari. Really fast. Boy, I'll tell you what, I've had 2 sports cars, both of them Mercedes sports cars. One of them was a little micro kind of sports car, smaller, and then the normal size one. Wow, to go down the highway at over 100 miles an hour is so much fun. Or the time that I drove a Porsche and got it up to 140 on the Autobahn in Germany. Oh, such fun, exhilaration. Don't you love speed?
That wasn't illegal.
No, not there.
On the Autobahn.
Right, exactly. And I even drove my pickup truck over there at 114 miles an hour. It wouldn't go any faster than that. But every time I get out on the Autobahn, 114 miles an hour. Whew! But there would come a Porsche at about 150 around me. Blow my doors off. Okay, so fortunately, Now, when I'm going to retire from this work, when I start turning into a flip phone kind of old guy. When I lose my speed and I absolutely can't hold that young guy's arm for very long, it's time to retire. It's time to sit on the porch swing and have me some iced tea. Okay, so let's see, what else? He talked about fast food, right? And we all like that. It's not the best thing for us, but if you have it occasionally, it does no damage, and it serves the purpose. I need this now. Okay, I ordered something at McDonald's this morning, and before I turned around to put something into the garbage, and then I turned back, and they said, "Mark," it was already ready. My 2 little burrito thingies and whatever it was. So that's we like those things, and it's not just because of the speed. I mean, there's something that's kind of the way they flavor it up. You enjoy it pretty much. But I don't think I want to do what that guy did in 30 days, gain 30 pounds. I'm not so interested in that. There was a guy who ran an experiment recently, and he ate McDonald's for 30 days and lost weight every day. It was that he chose differently the things that he ate at McDonald's. So, just the opposite of the other guy. The Sooner State. Well, this is old time fast. You line up all the horses and boom, run across the plain and claim your 40 acres. And, it's yours. So we kind of lead the world in speed. I mean, we got to the moon first, right? And we did. And our missiles are better than their missiles. Our cruise missiles are cooler than theirs. And we'll see what Iran's are like soon enough.
I like that laser you're using.
What laser is that? Is it a laser weapon?
Yes, it uses like 50 cents worth of electricity, and they blew the hood off of a pickup truck during a test a couple weeks ago, I think.
Wow. Is this a military
Yes.
test thing?
It is.
Yeah. Wow. I could see Dennis with with a laser like that. Whoops, I took off your whole jaw. I didn't mean to. I want a green laser, not a red one. Okay, so blind some pilots, see if the plane crashes. Man, I'm awfully devious for an old guy, don't you think? Okay, so next time it's donuts or something in class, because that's the closest to my birthday when I become 6. I'm not going to add the other 6. I want to die before then, because that would be really evil, wouldn't it? 666. So the Sooner State was an illustration. The fast food illustration thing, like the lady in the Waffle House, but it was a New York diner. But hey, I know it was a real Waffle House if it was in the South. And it's something that we really enjoy. Now, let's see. He interviews Michael Malone, the guy with the curly hair, who talks about we are built for speed. We're built to strive. That's just kind of the way human beings are in general, except that guy who lives in a hammock. He lives to sleep, I think. No, he picks up garbage on that trail that he lives by. He just does it every day. He hates that. He hugs Mother Earth daily. So Michael Malone was one. And another guy who looked about like me, except he didn't wear glasses, Regis McKenna. He was the guy who was the early adapter. You remember him? In other words, he was an older guy, but he was a geek guy. I'm not fully a geek, but I'm definitely partial geek. So he's a geek, too. He's a geek right back there. He's a geek, man. And so we're early adapters. We like technology and we like to play with it, and we don't really need somebody to teach us how to use it. We just figure it out. And just because I happen to be older or you're older than these 20-year-olds in here, you know, we can still do this stuff. But it's more unusual as you get older to have people to adapt to whatever the new technology is. The newest technology, of course, is artificial intelligence, and probably the most brilliant man in the world, Stephen Hawking, who has been living with Lou Gehrig's disease for about 20 years, somewhere in that neighborhood. Lived longer with, he's 70 now. And he's a national health treasure. So basically he lives totally on machines. It's only, you can't breathe. So the machine's breathing for him. But his brain still operates, and he has the latest technology to be able to talk even though he can't. Electrodes or something, I don't know how that works exactly. But he's fearful. Huh?
It's a special sensor, he can still move his cheek.
Ah.
And so he uses that, he's got a screen that has a little thing that goes across it.
See, early adapter. Go ahead.
And so he uses this muscle in his cheek to tell it to stop, and he forms words. And it takes him about 20 minutes to form out a sentence. But they've just upgraded his stuff where he can move a bit faster now because he uses predictive text.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's just doing a lot better.
Okay, well, I guess that he would know about artificial intelligence, since very likely he's having access to some of the latest stuff with regard to communication. In other words, I would imagine that some of the software you talk about predictive text. I mean, algorithms, I guess, are in there somewhere or another,
Right.
and maybe the technology learns from things it's doing in interacting with him. Anyway, he says that we need to stop this. This is dangerous, dangerous stuff. And if a man like, and he also believes in the climate change thing. Well, I believe in climate change. I just don't believe man is causing it, and I don't believe now is global warming, it's global cooling. So, and I don't know which one of those he's into, the warming or the cooling, who knows? But he's the today's Einstein is what he is. That's what he is. So when he says something about artificial intelligence, and to some degree he's got to be using it, that gives pause. Because, you know, if artificial intelligence gets good enough, it can learn faster and better than we do, and can say, I don't need you, launch the missiles, aim the lasers, flash, pew.
We go Terminator.
Yeah. Oh, don't turn me off, Hal. How many of you have seen the Space Odyssey?
I'm afraid I can't do that, Dave.
I can't do that, Dave. Yeah, Hal was the machine, and then it was Dave. All right.
If anybody's seen the movie, they would understand what I'm talking about.
Hey, yes, yeah, and then it really slows down. Okay, so you need to see 2001: A Space Odyssey. You need to see that.
Groundbreaking in 1969.
And then if you want to see the world that we're headed towards, you want to see Richard Burton in the George Orwell made into a movie 1984. You want to see that to see where the world is going. Haven't you ever heard of that? You know, Animal Farm.
Well, I've heard 1984.
Yeah, I'm talking about. You want to see the movie?
Version with Richard Burton. It was with. I can't think of the guy's name.
Oh, you want to see the one with Richard Burton? That's the good one.
I haven't seen that. See, the one I saw was the one with the guy from Alien. That had.
Now, see, you youngsters are so clueless because we're older and have, in other words, we've moved through more time. And that has to do with speed. And so we have a different reference point on some things. And the only way you can know what we're talking about, you got to see it. Watch it on Netflix. It's got to be there, right? 2001: A Space Odyssey. I think they'd like it, don't you? Most of them?
Well, it's slow paced.
Yeah. Yes, Dave. All right. I need to finish this. For your sakes, I'm being thoughtless here. I'm having way too much fun giving a review here. Let's see if this thing is still ticking. Yeah. Okay, good. Okay, I think that I've covered that, other than there are 2 points that are brought out at the end, and that is technology rewires us. But since most of us don't become absolutely addicted to the technology, there are times that we can step away from it. We can step away from it completely like the Amish do, or we can step away from it partially, or we can step away from it on a vacation, or we can do it like instead of always having the phone within 3 feet of me, what I can do is say, I'm not looking at email, I'm not answering calls all day long till 4 o'clock. So it'll have to go to voicemail or a text message, and then at 4 o'clock, that's when I sit down and deal with that for 20, 30 minutes, or, just depending upon how much I have to deal with, and then I deal with it. So people can make those choices, but let's admit it, most people don't make those choices, do they? And so those devices, those time-saving, supposedly, those speedy things, what they do is they involve us more and more, so that now we have not only this and this, especially for the geek guys who like guitars. I mean, what are you doing? You're doing that too. Video games, right? Wow. It's a wonder we don't all get electrocuted. Everything takes a battery or plugs in, doesn't it? Okay. All right. So that pretty much handles that, I think. Okay. Last one is on gender differences. And so who has the greater upper body strength generally? Men. Okay. Who has, generally speaking, greater attention to detail?
Women.
Okay. Who is better verbally, generally speaking?
Women.
Okay. Who is better at mathematics, generally speaking?
Men.
Okay. I was an Army engineer. Math. I used a calculator all the time and used tables. Okay. But I did eye-hand coordination stuff. I worked on my house. I rebuilt an engine. Stuff like that I enjoyed doing. Instead of throwing my phone away, I ordered a $25 battery with a little screwdrivers, and I put another battery in there because I like to wear stuff out. I've got, my SUV out there has 301,000 miles on it. My wife's SUV has 302,000 miles on it. I love old stuff. I like it always to work, but I want to wear it out till it can't be used anymore. That's what I like to do. I don't like to say, well, I want to trade this flip phone in for the latest flip phone. I've had this one for 6 months, and I want to wear this little iWatch, an Apple Watch. Wow. Crazy stuff. Okay, so, those are the 2 views presented at the end. Now, that's the technology junk. Okay, so back to the gender stuff. All right, back to the gender stuff. I'll get on task here. I was chasing a rabbit out there. Let's see. Men or women work better in groups?
Women.
Women. Yeah, men work in teams to destroy other teams. It's called football. let's see. It's easy to get a grant from the government to study the differences between men and women. True or false? Why is that false? You got the answer right, and you said it fast.
Too broad.
No, it's because men and women aren't different. They're the same. That's what the militant feminist agenda said. Do you see what I mean? I'm just like you. No. No. I'm confident of my manhood. Yes. All right. This one takes you through it by being, by showing this feminist agenda, which is based upon engineering humans according to the agenda. So men and women are the same, and so you end up with this dress called unisex. You end up with this sort of thing called androgyny, sameness. And all of this sort of terminology that nobody else thought about before. For whatever the reason, nobody thought about it till these feminists got involved in it. So it even goes to the point of stupidity. Yes, I think I will drag this man down 3 flights of stairs with his head going ka-thunk, ka-thunk, ka-thunk all the way. And so he would have lived if I could have lifted him. But I didn't want to. Too much smoke up there, so I decided to kill him by bashing in his head on the steps. All right, all those stupid things. And again, the women were not stupid. Now, the smart woman who can't lift the man, I weighed myself yesterday, I weigh 250. That's pretty hefty. That is pretty hefty. Okay, so how many of you women, if I were injured and there was a fire, how many of you women could carry me over your shoulder? I see one guy who probably could. Maybe you. But you would have a messed up back before it's over with. And maybe you. Maybe you as well. Okay? So, men have greater strength generally and greater upper body strength, right? But is that more important than detail work? No, it depends upon the work that needs to be done. For example, you're a nurse, right? Okay. I think instead of 25 millimeter, let's see, how do you measure that? In the syringe. Milliliters. Instead of 25 milliliters, let's give him some real fun. He's in pain. Give him 100. Okay. And that's important. And she doesn't need to come into work drunk and not knowing, I think that's a syringe, or is it forceps? It's really important, the work that nurses do, and it's detailed work. It's not just being the one that has the true relationship with a patient, as opposed to doctors, most of whom don't really have one. But it's all of those detailed things. This has to be done at this time in this amount, and we've left this one lying on his back for 16 weeks. Maybe he has some bed sores. Turn him over. So, detail work, and you go into any office, all of these centers. I don't care whether it's Jackson State, UTM, or Walter State, and I've worked in all 3 places. It's women that run the whole show, and it's because it's lots of little picky little detail work to do, and it's because they are way better at that. We might be able to do a fireman's carry, you and I, but they can do those other things that we might not like all that much, might not be able to do as well or as accurately. My wife is one of those. I mean, it doesn't matter what the detail is. She does it 2 weeks ahead of time perfectly, and it's so annoying. Because I can't do those things. She over prepares for everything, and I just go into things sort of laid back. But that over preparedness really comes in handy, and sometimes when I don't come in handy. You see what I'm saying? So the sexes, to a very great extent, and their individual differences, are very, very complementary. Very, very complementary. And so I don't care whether it's a feminist agenda or a homosexual agenda, whatever the agenda is, if it's going against the way we were designed, the way we were engineered. I mean, it's just like my car. Another car would have gotten stuck, but because I have all-wheel drive, I didn't. Well, if you didn't have all-wheel drive, you'd have been stuck, particularly if you had just rear-wheel drive. You might have gotten out with front-wheel drive. So, I don't care whether it's a car or air conditioning or that projector right there. They're all designed to operate in a certain way, and we are no different. We are no different. We're designed to operate in a certain way. We're designed to operate in a complementary way. That's why it takes two to tango to have a child, And so that's the most basic of complementary, but in numerous other ways we are complementary. Now, are there, mostly in a married couple, the women will prepare most of the meals. But now you will see a lot of cases where the men will do all or most of that. Now, but still, the majority would end up being women doing that. So what I'm saying is none of this stuff applies totally across the board. I'm just speaking in generalities with regard to it. So let's see. CAH girls. You remember what that is? The nurse will remember, maybe.
Congenital adrenal hyperplasia.
Good grief. Give that woman a star. Congenital adrenal hyperplasia. Yes. And in how many births of females does a CAH girl occur?
1 to 10,000.
Good grief. She's already won.
She remembers longer than I do.
1 in 10,000, that's exactly right, yeah. Okay, and so that is not engineered, it's an accident of engineering. And so a girl who's a CAH girl can operate just fine, it's just that she's not going to be like the other 9,999 who were born differently from that. So she will think kind of like guys think, will like to do things kind of like guys do, and will even have, interests sort of like guys. She'll almost always still get married, have children, all of that sort of thing, but she will behave a little bit differently. Now, was it the same way with mice and rats? When you do that on purpose, and what causes a CAH girl? Testosterone, yeah, okay. Or androgen, I don't know which. I think it's testosterone. And so what, with the first rise, let's in the womb, with the first rise of the male hormone in the woman's womb, what do they know that causes? Yeah, the genitalia development. And then that happens again, and so, now you have a male. And well, I mean, there are other things involved in the testosterone being there. But and then so that happens again during the gestation period. And so what is it theorized that causes to happen in the male that's in the womb? Yeah, differences. Good grief. Gene, wow. You listen and I don't. See, that's another male characteristic, and most women know that of guys, right? How long have you been married?
Total,
Yeah.
this last time about 3 months.
Okay, well, before that.
Total altogether, probably about 25 years.
Okay, all right. So, for me, it was 23 and 23, so 46 on May the 1st. My wife would tell you, and you could probably, men don't listen like women listen, do they? Nope. Do you see all this? Okay. All right. So whatever that testosterone does to mess us up, give us a break, okay? Give us a break. We can't help it. It's chemical. So if it takes a while for us to tune in and actually, let's see, there's sound. I thought there were just lips moving. When I do that sort of thing, my wife will go, wah, 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 wah. That's what you were hearing, right? I said, I'm still hearing it. Why are you? I thought that's what you were saying.
I'm watching Charlie Brown.
May as well have fun before a test, don't you think? You have never taken a test like this, have you? Yeah. I mean, you know, where it's a comedy routine review. It's a CRR, a comedy routine review. Okay, so let's see, is there anything else? Who would make the best astronaut?
Yeah.
No. Woman. Why?
Pay attention to detail.
Lighter weight.
Well, that would be, well,
Stay calm under stress.
eat less food.
Eat less food, lighter weight.
Less
basically
oxygen.
Less oxygen pack.
Yeah.
They multitask a little bit better than us too sometimes.
Yeah. You know, there are some interesting things. You know, we make some distinctions based upon gender. We make some distinctions based upon race. And there are certain things. For example, in Ferguson, Missouri, the 2 police officers that were shot by the idiot who shot them last week, and he said, well, I wasn't really aiming at the policeman. I was aiming at somebody else. Sorry. Yeah, that doesn't make a whole lot of difference, does it? But anyway, the idiot who did that, now, the protest was sparked by the Department of Justice report. The Department of Justice report did a statistical analysis of stops and arrests and that going to trial, and, you know, too high a percentage of blacks in that, minorities. And the greatest minority around there are black people. So we got to fix this. Well, I'm going to write them and tell them you got to fix. I want you to do a study to see how many of those were males. All of the males. Black, white, we aren't going to look at race. We're going to look at males. And so now what I want you to do is be looking out for females. Let the males go through and stop the females. Let's get this evened out. Do you see how crazy this stuff is? You know, why is it that you go after the race thing when I can absolutely guarantee you that of all of those stops, it was probably 90% males. 80% at least males. Stopped, arrested, you know, have to break into the house and serve a warrant or something. Males. 80, 90%, somewhere in there. And so that's unfair. And let's see. You're so smart, you're obviously going to make the highest grade on the test. So how much of your grade of 100 do you want to give away? Because I'm taking it. Okay. He's probably going to flunk. You want to know why? That's why he's going to flunk. He's saying, I am an X. I can't write my name. That's my signature, okay? All right, so let's suppose that you make 100 and he makes 58. So we got to get him up to a C, right? All right, so let's see. To get him up to a C, 58, we got to get him to 70. So I got to take 12 points, right, from her to give to you to get you to 70. And was I right on the math? Okay, all right. So 12. I told you I was good at math. So 12 points from her to him, and so he's now a C, and you're down to a B. Well, let's see. You have a higher B than she does.
She can try.
Huh?
It's on my back and she can try.
Okay. Do you see how crazy this stuff is? Do you see it? I mean, I have no doubt that some people are, stopped by the police unjustifiably. I have no doubt about that. But, just to make everything racial or everything a sex bias, it just isn't so. Okay, the reason you'd have so many males is that males have testosterone. That makes you aggressive and you do dumb stuff. Way more than girls do. Way more. And so you go to the prison population. Oh, wow, we got 18 men's prisons and one woman's prison, so we've got to corrupt them so they'll commit more crimes. Look, here's a bank, rob it. We'll help you, we've got guns. Wow, what a world, what a world. It's totally upside down, totally upside down. So, if you commit the crime, I don't care your color, your height, your weight, your sex. Bonnie and Clyde, okay? Well, it's usually not 50-50 on crime. So he had to shoot more bullets than she did. Had to. Because he has the testosterone more aggressive. But she must have been a CAH girl, I think.
I think she was just like him and make him do it. She wanted the money.
The movie is pretty good. Okay, all right. Let's see whether I have to acquaint you with anything else before I pass this out, or before I pass out, before I faint. All right. Oh yeah. I need to the business about happiness. Talking, listening, shared activities. It's basic for human relationships, but there are some basic rights too that I've only mentioned one or twice, and it's been forever since I've emphasized them. And the basic human rights are the ones that are inalienable. Among these are, can you finish them? There are just three, I think. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Right. Okay, now in what documents that found?
The Declaration.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so listen, what I've tried to do is acquaint you with some basics because, look, you can have really good relationships if you have those rights. Can't you? And talking, listening, and shared activities, that makes me not want to take out my tactical pen and smack her right through the eyes and into her brain. Because my frontal lobe is fully developed, and I know better than that. And I have no animus towards her at all. So I wouldn't do that. But I might take my lockpick. Okay, so inalienable rights. What does that mean?
Something you can't take, something that somebody can't take away from you.
Right. Something I can put a lien on, I can take away. If I'm the IRS, you haven't paid your taxes, or you haven't paid your real estate taxes on your house, the county can take it away, can't they? They can put a lien on it. But they can't, you have to do some really egregious, that means terribly awful, can't stand it things, in order for your life to be taken, right? And somebody who takes your life with no justification whatsoever, they're going to end up paying a penalty if they can be caught, because that's really important. Liberty. You have to do some pretty egregious, I love that word, egregious things for your liberty to be removed from you, right? In other words, if you can't function in society with the proper respect of those liberties of other people, and, you know, I'm taking liberties away from any of you, well, I have to be removed, so I can't do that anymore, because those are unalienable, except for criminals. And so I got to take yours away to protect society. Okay, and again, that is just as basic as talking, listening, shared activities, and just as basic as ethos, logos, and pathos. Credibility, rationality, and emotion in speech and in writing and in literature, you name it. So, you know, you've got some really basic things that if you just play around with all those basic things in the right combination, like my son did giving my granddaughter that Volvo he texted me he was going to give her last night. You know, she had a pretty good birthday today. She got the picture of that 1999 Volvo that's flawless with 195,000 miles on it and everything working just great. And so grandfather has to fly out there and drive it here so she can have a car. All right, so let's see what else. Do relationships have an effect on you physically? Can they? Do relationships, can they have an effect upon you emotionally?
Yes.
Mentally? Yeah, of course. Intimacy levels. In this class, you know, I conducted in an informal way and a lot of joking and back and forth. So it's not very formal, it's informal. But it's kind of an informal business relationship like father to children, isn't it? Isn't it? And we treat one another with respect. The children and the father treat one another with respect. That's kind of the way it's put together. So that's not a very intimate relationship because we meet once a week, hey, and then we get divorced at the end. You know, you take the final and then the divorce is final as well. And we're done. And he puts the X on his paper and steals all of her points and he passes. Thank you. All right, so the levels of intimacy differ. In a marriage, if it's a good marriage, the level of intimacy is close. It's a close kind of intimacy. A parent with children, that's close. Really close friends. Let's suppose one of the closest kinds of relationships that develops is people in the military under great duress and hardship. You know, they become brothers. And if women are there, they become brothers with them. You know, weathering whatever it is that they're having to weather under those awful circumstances. Okay, let's see what else. I just don't want to have skipped something. Boy, I'm good. Oh, who gets custody of children most often? Women. Okay. What's the percentage of time that men get custody? Anybody happen to remember that? I'm going to you. It's Jeopardy. You know.
10.
Yes. See, nurse, she's going to give me the right drugs.
You just didn't say it loud enough.
You too?
Yeah, I remember they said it too.
Oh, man.
We're all kind of synced. Yeah.
Wow. intelligence in men. I'm not accustomed to seeing this. Wow. We're going to have to take some points from you guys.
Take negative points.
Okay. And let's see, if I add two negatives, I get a positive. Doesn't it work that way? All right. Let's see. Da, 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 da. We're ready for this. At least I am. I know every answer.
This is the open book.
What book? Okay, now here's what I'd like you to do. When you put down your responses, use a capital letter for the correct response directly next to the number. Number 1, if A is the correct answer, right next to it, to the left of it. Your name in the upper right-hand corner. Just put an X on yours. This is Guitar Man. He comes in here early every time. And you? Do you need a pen? You want a tactical one? Just unscrew it. And then stab it into his leg and see if it hurts. See, I'm trying to get myself all hyped up because I've got to drive a while. I want to make sure I'm awake. So far it's working. No cheating unless you can get away with it. Wonder what the person who's going to get this audio recording is going to think of this.